Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today I'm going to be looking at the new album from BT, Electronic Opus. So, for those of you who don't know who BT is, he's one of the most foremost trance and EDM producers, period, as well as one of the most influential in the trance genre. He popularized that sunnier, happier brand of trance. He developed the stutter edit, constantly tries to push the envelope, and unlike Avicii, actually has the production skills to back it up. He's had a steady stream of 9 fantastic albums over the course of 20 years, which I'll give my quick thoughts on right now. BT introduces his brand of sunny and uplifting trance in the mid-late 90s, setting the scene for the genre for pretty much the rest of its existence. This still holds up pretty well considering its age, but the ending track, Divinity, is by far the best part. Similar to IMA, but better. Similar to ESCM, but with more pop elements. Also better. BT pretty much goes all-out pop here and experiments with his stutter edit a lot, disappointing most of his fan base, but, you know, I still like this one. This is probably in my top 5 albums ever, not exaggerating. It's an amazing blend of IDM, jazz, post-rock, ambient, film music, even has this weird art film attached to it. This is a definite must-listen. This goes back to his usual vocal trance, and not only does this have some of his catchiest tunes, but also some of his most detailed songs yet. Also another absolute must-listen. Tries to replicate the success of This Binary Universe, but it's not as good. Still stands up pretty well on its own though. I usually use this album to help me fall asleep, but actually giving it an in-depth listen turned out pretty well too. Armin van Buuren, eat your heart out. Which brings us to this project. So about a full year ago, BT announced on Kickstarter that he wanted to create an album of orchestral reinterpretations of his old music. The second I saw this idea, I knew it absolutely had to happen. Though it did kind of bug me that BT was championing the fact that no one had ever done it before, which is totally not true. I mean, Basement Jaxx did it, Square Pusher did it, not to mention the whole idea of combining electronic music with a live orchestra is pretty much the entire idea behind Hybrid. But the difference is, this is BT we're talking about. BT is known to be a perfectionist. Everything he's ever made has pretty much his entire heart and soul poured into it. Especially his main albums. If there's anyone who should have orchestral reinterpretations of his old music, it's BT. I knew that even though I could say that the idea isn't new, he would still stop at nothing to make sure that this idea that he had got carried out in full and blow the collective minds of everyone who listened. So despite the fact that he said the idea was new and I knew that it wasn't, I still pledged my $10. Would definitely pledge more if I weren't broke and unemployed at the time. And after 11 months of waiting on the edge of my seat for this idea to surface, and lamenting that I couldn't go over to Miami to see it live, or pledge more to get a physical copy, just a few days ago, he finally delivered the completed electronic opus, now widely available to the public. So, how did it turn out? Well, I pretty much got exactly what I expected. For my first listen of this album, I had my brain turned on so I could pay attention to all the little details because I knew BT's great at that. And when it was all done, I think my brain exploded or something. Not only was BT's attention to detail just as amazing as on his best albums, which, you know, makes sense because he kind of took a lot of stuff directly from those best albums, but he was also stimulating the emotional part of my brain as I already knew all these songs and this is like all my favorite BT songs on steroids. Neural impulses were so numerous and so powerful that by the end I was left lying on my bed with my face hurting from grinning so much, my brain barely functioning, and I was like manually breathing. I was almost thinking of skipping a proper review altogether because I would have nothing to add to it. Though after that, I gave it a couple of listens kind of in the background. This allowed me to look at this album from a more critical standpoint. So BT made my brain explode. That is awesome. But I do have some very small, tiny little nitpicks. First of all, song lengths. Why is The Emergency only 3 minutes long? Cutting down The Emergency from its 10-minute original down to 5 minutes on these humble machines felt like a complete butchering. Why would you want to shorten down The Emergency? But surprisingly, the 3-minute version turned out to not be as annoyingly truncated as I thought it was gonna be. I do still absolutely wish that he had made this version longer, but, you know, just me begging for more. Another thing I kinda wish he did was that I wish he had reworked some of his newer tracks, made them sound different. Like, he reworked a whole bunch of his older tracks, like Flaming June and Dreaming and Satellite, all of which sound completely different from their originals. But a bunch of his newer tracks, like Suddenly, A Million Stars, sound like they're kinda copy-pasted from the original. I really shouldn't be bringing this up at all because, you know, BT's an amazing producer. Why should I be complaining that he used the same production that turned out fantastic already? Really the only song that this actually does bug me on, though, is The Silent Hearts. That's because BT did not produce that track himself, but rather handed the production over to Armin van Buuren. And in case you can't already tell, I'm not really much of an Armin fan. I think he's good, but the thing about Armin is that he's stuck in a rut. Pretty much all 5 of his albums sound exactly the same. He's predictable, is what I'm saying. So still hearing Armin's fingerprints scattered all over this new electronic Opus version of These Silent Hearts was a little tiny bit disappointing. And one last final kind of nitpick, which may or may not be a nitpick at all. There were virtually no surprises contained within electronic Opus whatsoever. I'm gonna have to admit, the second I heard BT announce what he wanted to do with electronic Opus, I pretty much already knew exactly what it was gonna sound like. Again, that also convinced me to donate to the cause, and hope that it would be taken out to its full potential as it was here. But while sitting and hyping myself up for this album, listening to the 14 songs that BT had announced for the track listing, making sure I knew them really well, when all is said and done, I can't help but wonder what would have happened had I not done that. Would that mean that I would be able to experience these songs with fresh eyes? Would that mean that I wouldn't have been disappointed that These Silent Hearts still kinda sounded like Armin? But you know what? In the end, I think I'm glad I did hype myself up for this album as much as I did. I don't want to sound ungrateful that this exists. Nitpicking misses the point of this recording entirely. Sure, I would have liked it to be longer. Sure, I would have liked more songs. Sure, I would have liked more surprises, but if I didn't know all these songs so well, then it wouldn't have been quite as potent. The point was that first listen. That unbelievable blast of awesomeness that completely fried my brain. That was why I was so hyped up for this album. And BT most certainly lived up to that hype. Sure, BT isn't the first to this idea, but something would be wrong with the world if BT never got to the idea in the first place. Even though BT wasn't the first, I really hope to God he isn't the last. In fact, I know he won't be the last. Hybrid's supposed to be coming out with a 5th album sometime soon. But either way, I'd like to thank BT for giving us such an amazing experience of an album. And I've heard rumors that he's also going to be touring Electronic Opus live. So hopefully he comes over here to Chicago, and so I can actually see it without having to buy an expensive plane ticket. But enough of that. Overall, feeling like, yeah! Out of 10. I won't give it an actual numerical score because these are technically all remixes of old songs, but it's still awesome and you have to check it out. Favorite songs, all of them really. More specifically, Flaming June, Dreaming, Ferris Wheel, Love Comes Again, 1.618, A Million Stars, Skylarking, Good Morning Kaia, Forget Me, and Satellite. Least favorite song, if I absolutely had to pick, The Emergency. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you heard this album, make sure to tell me about it in the comments. If you haven't heard this album, go listen to it. Like, seriously, do it. If you have any requests for what I should review next, make sure to tell me about that too. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.